So this will hopefully be a quick video where I go through this model and just give some tips for how to use it and avoid any problems. So starting off, you should have received a downloadable text file, and that contains the link to a Google Drive folder which you can download, which contains, this model and all the necessary files. And there would have also been a link to this video you're watching. So once you download that file, I'll just navigate to it. Yeah, it'll be labeled as Male Human Figure 1.0. So if you open that up, Male Figure Assembly is the main assembly, which I have open here. Male Master Model 1.0 is kind of the skeleton base model where I actually built up this using surfacing features and then split the body up into different parts. Those different parts are then saved in this body parts folder. So for anyone interested, I used the insert part where I brought in the master model and then deleted away the individual body parts and then had axes and sketches to position them accordingly in the assembly. I also have step files just in case someone doesn't have SolidWorks. You can open up universal step files, but you do lose the mate positioning capabilities. And I also have a clones folder. In this case, it contains 2 clones of the main assembly. So that's in case you want to position multiple of these figures in some kind of scene, and perhaps you have one standing, one sitting, and so on and so forth. And finally, there's a README text file which more or less contains everything I'm going through in this video. So let's say we open up the main assembly and we want to adjust the position of this model. So you could click and drag things, but because there's so many mates linked together, you're not really going to get any good control that way. So I have these mate controllers, and for the legs, for example, if I right click it and say edit feature, it opens a list of all the individual mates that I can adjust, and they're all labeled. So hip flexion angle can come in and adjust that. Sometimes these are not fully stable. SolidWorks seems to have a mind of its own sometimes. So if it's kind of not snapping to the position you want, you can just manually type in the angle, and that seems to always work. Yeah, can kind of go through these and have a bit of fun playing around with them. Yeah, I'm just going to do a quick demonstration here, but yeah, maybe say I want to position the right arm then also to be pointed up and bending the elbow and maybe also rotating the shoulder out like that. And you can also go into the hand positions. So some things are simplifications, like the fingers all only have, oh, this is actually adjusting the other hand. They only have 2 degrees of freedom, so not quite as, complicated as our hands, but, still pretty reasonable amount of adjustment. So say, I position this around, but I want to bring everything back to the nominal position. I can right click on the mate controller and then this drop down box, hit nominal for nominal position, and then hit the green arrow. And I can go through these and yeah, just in case you ever get to some kind of wacky position and you want to get back to the base. So just going to open up one of my scenes where I positioned a few of these in with the car. So yeah, again, this is a pretty ridiculous scene, but just for demonstration purposes. I've actually saved these as different clones because if I just put in the same copy of the base assembly, when I adjust the position of one, they're all going to adjust accordingly. So say, for example, I wanted to bring in a new guy, and just for demonstrational purposes, let's make him do some kind of, weird position like this. And then I'm going to save as a copy and open, go into my clones folder and save as clone number 8. So hit save, give it a moment. I'll keep the original open. And then I'm going to go to my scene I'm working on and then insert component and yeah, insert number 8. So I can, position this guy how I want. Let's make it so we want him kind of sitting on the front bonnet of the car. And now let's say, suppose we want his kind of knees to be bent. Well, we can select him and then go down to the mate controllers relevant to that model. And let's go into leg positions. And let's say the knee angles we want to adjust accordingly here. Something like that, and then hit OK. And obviously I could go through all the other ones, but yeah, it can be a bit time consuming playing around with this. You may have noticed this one, for example, has these kind of parting lines along the surface boundaries. So that's just representative of the surfaces used to make this model. There's no real way in SolidWorks to hide these, but only keep the outlined edge visible. But what you can do is in your feature, your assembly tree, click on this little arrow pointing to the right, and that's going to bring up some like display adjustments for each subassembly. And I'm going to click on this box and change that one to shaded. As we can see, now we're just getting like the base surfaces. So yeah, you can adjust that depending on your preferences. But in this example, I haven't done that for the car model, but have done that for most of the figures. So another thing we can do is say we want to scale down one of these models, in this case, maybe to represent a child. Unfortunately, there's no easy way as of yet for me to scale the whole assembly without throwing off the mates. I might discuss that in a more detailed video on my YouTube channel. But the workaround I have at the moment is that once I have a saved clone, so say this male figure clone 8, I could save that as a multi-body part. So I'm just going to save as, and instead of an assembly, save it as a part. And what that's going to do is kind of freeze it in this position. But then, so for example, I'll open up this scaled model. Just brings everything in as solid sort of parts. But then I've applied a scale feature. So I just did insert features and scale here, and just kind of scaled that down to, something smaller, 60% in this case. The negative of this is that you then can't reposition the mates of the multi-body part. So you kind of have to reposition the assembly clone how you want it, then save it as the multi-body part. So if this is popular, I'll see if I can work on a fix of that going forward to make it a bit more smooth. But one benefit of that approach then is that I can come and change the appearance of the multi-body part. So let's say we want this child to be wearing a red shirt. Just going to drag red onto that face. What I can do then is right-click that and hit copy appearance. And while holding down Control on my keyboard, select all the other surfaces that I want to be the same color or same appearance, and then hit paste. I'm going to just do Control Z to undo that. For whatever reason, if I do that just on an assembly clone, like let's say I paste onto this guy's shirt, it kind of updates all of them. Even though they are saved as separate assemblies, they're all kind of referencing the same base model, I guess. So yeah, that's just another thing to keep in mind, to be aware of. So I'm just going to see if there's one more example I can show you. Just open it up quickly. While I'm doing that, I'm also just checking my notes to make sure I'm not missing anything else. But yeah, okay, so this is a C-scooter I built, and I have a video of that on my YouTube channel. And I brought this figure in to position it on the C-Scooter, and yeah, I'm pretty happy with this. It gives a pretty cool visualization of the product and the scale and the size. But yeah, I'm just going to hide this for now. And let's say I wanted to, yeah, I'll just demonstrate how you might go about doing this. So I'm going to insert the clone 8 that we made before. Just get his position roughly accurate. Slide him over. I'm going to update the display to just be shaded. And now I'm going to adjust the mate controllers. So I'm going to start with the right arm, bring the shoulder forward a bit, flex the elbow, rotate the shoulder in, adjust. So that's an example where it's not popping correctly to position, but I can see I roughly want it at negative 15 degrees. So just going to enter that there and it will stay. That seems to work reliably. Adjust the wrist rotation. And I'm not going to go through everything because it can be a bit time consuming, but I could go into the finger mate controllers and update them. Yeah, and this whole guy, I can, update him with the triad and move him around. So yeah, you can have a bit of fun playing around with this. But yeah, more or less that's what I did with this figure, separate to this video, and got it to a nice position. Now this one does have the appearances updated. So as I mentioned before, I actually saved the assembly clone as a multi-body part. And then I went in and adjusted the appearances, just so it doesn't interfere with any of the other ones. But say, for example, I wanted to make this guy kind of nude. What I can do is right click on the skin appearance and hit copy appearance, and then holding control, go through and select the desired surfaces I want to change. Maybe I want to get rid of, the appearance on his pants, and then hit paste. So obviously you need to be careful to go through and select all the correct ones. I can, continue going through. But yeah, that's something pretty cool. Obviously, there are some limitations with this model. There's like discrepancies between some of the joints. The worst is probably the hips. But yeah, it's kind of like the best I could do in SolidWorks at this point in time. Cool. So that's, yeah, more or less everything to kind of get you started. If you run into any issues, please shoot me an email, reach out. If you have any feedback, yeah, let me know, and I may look to make a updated version going forward. So yeah, again, thank you for your support, and I hope you get something useful out of this.